Okay, so somebody left a comment that do I really like the purple clicky switches more than a bunch of other keyboards, you know? And honestly, the answer is yes. Okay, and it's not just because it's purple clicky. Again, the K100 has a hard bottom out. This is the first mechanical keyboard I bought. And at the time, you know, PBT keycaps, metal backplate, speed switches, optical switches, macro keys, you know, crazy bright RGB, metal backplate, you know, really cool, you know. But the hard bottom out just kills it, you know. Analog V2, you know, it doesn't have the hard bottom out because it's got longer travel distance, heavier keys. You know, it doesn't have the macros that get in the way. Really, you know, I enjoyed using this. I mean, I still like it. It's probably my favorite, almost. I don't know. Okay, so then I got the reds, the silent reds here. And people are right. I mean, you know, it is so cool how quiet it is. You know, it has good things about it. You know, there's things that, like, when you just start using it, you're like, hey, this is pretty good. You know, it's quiet. The keys, you know, again, PBT keycaps, metal backplate. You know, it's got all these good things about it. But it's mushy. It's firm feeling. It's stiff and mushy. While over here, these keys are light and fast, but you can hear them. There are so many variables to consider besides, ooh, it's clicky, you know. Ooh, you like clickies, you like cooties, you know. The purple clickies do not feel stiff. They're not clacky and unwieldy, you know. They're pleasant to type on. They don't have a hard bottom out. You know, they're not mushy. You know, there's a lot of variables to consider. And out of the bunch of these keyboards, the purple clicky, I think, is the best. Now, would the red silence be better if they were just red? You know, without the mushy stiffness? Yeah, I would probably say the reds would be better than the purples. But that's not the case. That's not what they did. Okay, so the purples are basically reds, but with clicky tactile. Okay, and the reds are basically silent, mushy, stiff crap. You know, and this thing has a hard bottom out and macro keys that get in the way. Slightly pingy, pretty loud. Hard bottom out. You know, and then this thing, loud, clacky. I'm going to look back at this keyboard and say, how did I ever like this? You know, but this is loud and clacky too. Not as clacky, but it's loud. It's the keys are so light. You know, they're so smooth. These are some smooth These two keyboards have really smooth, linear. I mean, these are smooth too on the reds, but they're mushy. They do have this mushy firmness about it. I mean, again, I could actually use this keyboard, okay? I'm not saying the reds are unusable, but I just noticed my fingers feel a little bit more fatigued. I don't enjoy pushing them. But they have some quality about them. They're, you know, they're not terrible. Again, all these keyboards have some good qualities about them. Okay, you can't really just say they're all terrible. it's just like one or two defining factors that ruin them. The short travel distance hard bottom out. The macro keys ruins it. The kind of clacky, clunky, maybe overly heavy. Again, this is one of my favorites. The only thing that I can bitch about this one is maybe the keys are a little bit heavy. And maybe it's a bit clacky, but I would rather use this one over the K100. And the silence, I would still use the analog probably. Yeah, I would. So the silent one is like in third place because, well, I don't know. Which is worse, silver? Some keyboard reviewer said the red silents were like Cherry MX Speeds but worse. And honestly, I may have to agree with that because these are just stiff, slow. They actually do have a pretty shallow bottom out. Maybe not, maybe not as hard as the bottom out on here. Oh man, this bottom out is just a bitch. These may even have a shorter travel distance on the silver speeds. I mean, this is a bitch right here. The bottom out is insane. Over here, it's a little bit better, the bottom out, but the mushiness. If these were as fast and light as these, on this, if these weren't stiff and they were like this, lighter springs, faster, I would like this, it's terrible. Terrible. I'm returning that. And then we got the purple clickies. These are light, but they're since it has that clicky tactile bump, there's no way you're gonna have typos. This you're gonna have typos. So you kind of have that clicky tactile barrier that prevents you from pushing the key down too much. This one, typos. So these two keyboards have about the same spring weight, the K100 and the clicky. This one just has a little bit longer travel distance, so they don't bottom out so hard like the K100. They don't have the macro keys on the side. It's a really nice keyboard. So I would say the clicky tactile Huntsman V2 may be my #1 favorite keyboard now out of this bunch, followed by the analog, and then the red silence in the K100. I think well, maybe I would say the K silence are my third favorite, and then maybe but again, there's so many variables. It's amazing how, like, when you first put your hand on the silent keys, you're like, hey, this could be pretty good. This isn't too bad. And it feels kind of like you're playing in mud. It's kind of like using a mud pad, a mouse pad, It's kind of like a mud pad. It's just murky. People typically say mushy. I guess that's the word they like to use. But it's like, what the fuck, man? It's not terrible. But I would probably rather use a membrane keyboard than K100 and the red silence. I think the analog's a little bit better than a membrane keyboard, as well as the purple clicky Huntsman V2. Okay. So a lot of people like, really? Do you really think purple clickies are good? Well, it's not just the purple clickies. It's the fact that, you know, it's not mushy. It's doesn't have a hard bottom out. It's not clacky. The spring weight is not too heavy. You know, I think they did really good on their purple. I think they fucked up their red, you know, by making them red silence. If they weren't red silence, I would probably say the reds were the best out of these keyboards, probably. Instead, it's like goddamn third, fourth membrane. Just get membrane. Some people say that this keyboard even has membrane qualities because it's so soft and quiet. But it's just slow. Again, like when you first put your hands on it, it's not that bad. You're like, hey, this could be pretty good. And then over time, it's like, it's kind of murky. It's kind of slow and muddy and mushy. But it, you know, it's got so many good qualities too. You know. But over time, it just slows you down more and more and more. It's kind of like the hard bottom out over here. Just over time, the bottom out just gets worse and worse and worse. Honestly, I really like the analog. You know, it can clack all it fucking wants. The analog honestly could still be my favorite. But the purple clicky Huntsman V2 is basically done so well that, you know, as probably the only thing you can hate about it is it's purple clicky. You know, that's the only thing it did wrong. You know, maybe the Huntsman Red, the only thing they did wrong is they made them silent. You know.